much, Dr. Ruati. I'm really honored, and thank you for your kind words. And I give God the glory for even all that He has and He continues to enable me to do for Life Pacific University. Well, we have a great team, you know, the academic team led by you. We have a great team of faculty, and we also have a great team of students in our program. So it's been a team work, and God has been blessing the work. That is just like the Bible says, you know, Paul was saying, he planted, Apollo watered, and God gives the increase. That's our testimony. It's the Lord's doing, and we give him all the glory. Just as I want to join Dr. Ruati to welcome you back from your brunch program meetings with your program colleagues. I want to share with you my screen, which will just show you our roadmap for this session. I will begin with thanking you, faculty. Then I'll give you a question, why are we actually having this session? Then we'll take a poll. And then we start with a prayer, and then we move into our breakout rooms. So let me begin with so that's our roadmap. Okay, we're all here. Welcome back. All right, so we want to have highlights from the breakout room facilitators, beginning with Eric. Just highlights from your conversation and your session.
Yeah, I think the thing I noticed is that a lot of the faculty pointed out making their content in small chunks and making sure that whether it's a video or it's an assignment, that it's purposeful, that it's digestible, and that it interweaves different methods of communicating it so that they're not doing the same activity for a very long period of time. I think towards the end we talked about the technology, because we had a question about how are we going to set everything up to facilitate a course. And I really appreciated chapter 3 because he said, or both she and he said, that having a low-tech solution that solves a problem is better than having a high-tech solution that creates more problems. I appreciated that chapter.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for breakout room number 1? I assigned about 4 minutes for these highlights for each breakout room, and we have about 2 minutes to go. Any question for Eric and the faculty in that breakout room? I was looking at my slides during the breakout room sessions, you know, and I know one of the tips by the author is regarding, you know, how do you get students to actually watch your video? You make a lot of effort to prepare these videos. They will do the readings for the book because they know they need that as well. How do you get them to really watch your videos? What do you do? Somebody, what are you already doing in your own online classes if you're already teaching online? What do you do to make them look at your video? Or you think all your students are interested in looking at all your videos? All right, what do you do to make them look at that video? Even in small chunks of the videos, what do you do? Well, if I may share with you my own little experience in this area, somebody's, okay, go ahead, Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, what typically you do in a traditional classroom is you would have them do some kind of a follow-up assignment. Either number 1, give an outline when they're done watching the video. So if they have got an outline, it makes them actively involved doing it. Or give them some kind of follow-up quiz or exercise that they knew beforehand they had to pay attention because this is coming. So you put some kind of accountability structure into what takes place after the video. That's what I would do.
Excellent. That's what I do in my online class. You know, I give them a question. In most cases, I design one of my discussion forum questions to make them go back to the video to draw from the video. And let me tell you, one of the ways you can make them really benefit from the video is don't regurgitate what is in the textbook in the video. When you're teaching, let's say, theory on leadership, like the LMX theory, I draw from another classic test in that field that they wouldn't find in the required test for the class. And they need to see the video to be able to respond. Thank you. All right. Thank you, breakout room number 1. Let's go to breakout room number 2. Highlights from breakout room number 2, and that's Dr. Gail Samples. Over to you.
Okay, so what we focused mainly on chapter 6. We felt that, or I felt that chapters 4 and 5 really, we spent a lot of time on those concepts with our magnet training. So we looked at chapter 6, and there were several key concepts that I pointed out, and I asked everyone is to give their feedback on that. And so one of the major one was the idea of just scaffolding their assignments, and a couple of them felt that that was really helpful. Both Dorothy and Evelyn mentioned that they're giving students 6 or several mini assignments leading up to the mastery then of one topic or one objective was helpful. Leanne talked about journals in terms of setting outcomes or goals. We felt that it was really helpful. It would be helpful for students to set their goals for themselves, to identify what might be a challenge for them to reach that goal. What do they plan on doing afterwards? Kimo thought that was a great idea, but he felt that it might be a little limiting though, as they may not see a broader picture. They may set like a small narrow goal for themselves, but not fully encompassing what the class material is going to offer. So that was a challenge with the goal setting, but all in all, we felt that that was a good idea. We looked at the idea of how, according to the book, if we structure our class to give a lot of feedback to returning assignments real quickly, to having the video sessions, to having students upload videos in a discussion, it might provide to be more time consuming for the students and the professor, but it's something that each professor can determine its value and its worth to the class. Obviously, students like us to be very involved almost on a daily basis. And so we have to adjust. Kimo was real, not adamant, but his point was just make sure that you set those time frames for yourself, set the boundaries in terms of what you as a faculty member want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. He also liked the idea of maybe slowing down for those people that may move too fast in a class, but to slow down and really spend time reflecting on your students and what they're learning and what it's about. So it's a balance that as faculty members, we need to work towards achieving in terms of content, reflection, grading, engaging the students, and find creative ways to do that. So that was the basics of what we discussed and uncovered with our group.
Thank you so much, Gail. Does anybody have any question or any additional comment from that breakout room session number 2? Breakout room number 2, do you have any comment if you're in that room? You want to add to what Gail has said, or if you are not in that room, you have a question for Gail, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I just want to, going off of what Eric's group said and then what Gail just said too. It seems to me, since we're talking about synchronous sessions, not necessarily videos, and breaking these into smaller units, I mean, maybe because we talked in our group about, scaffolding, and perhaps you do 20-minute sessions or teachings and then use a discussion, or I'm just working through this on my own here. You guys can agree or shut me down, but use discussion points to reiterate or reaffirm what was taught in the lesson, and then back to a teaching session. But
thank you. That usually works as well. Thank you. All right, let's go to breakout room number 3, highlights. Amy, over to you.
So we discussed the third section of the book that focuses on motivation. Chapter 7 and 8 cover student motivation, and chapter 9 covers professor motivation. And one of the highlights in there is students are motivated by what they feel a sense of ownership of. So the more choice we can give them, the more they feel like they have an element of control or agency in their learning, the more connected to it they will be, and the more motivated they will be to do it. So one of the highlights that came out was just the idea of giving students an element of choice with what they want to write about, or whether it's in a discussion thread or in a response paper or any kind of thing that they're writing for us where there's a prompt, giving more than one prompt, giving 2 or 3 that they can choose from that all pull out things that we want them to engage with, but allowing them to choose gives agency and then motivation. Another thing that we discussed was making connections. So students, again, they're motivated to keep learning when they can connect what we're teaching in class to either something that they already know or something that actually has real life applicability to them right now. And so we do that by giving them scaffolding, either through doing something like a pretest where they get to determine, or they get to show us what they already know about a subject, which is helpful to us as professors, but it's also helpful for them to make connections with what they already know, or by allowing them to, or asking the kinds of questions that draw out, how is this concept that we're studying right now, how do you see this at work in your daily life, or how do you see it playing out in the news or in social media or whatever. Like, the more connections we can help them make, the more integrated the learning will become, and the more motivated they will be to learn more. And that's what we discussed.
Great, thank you. Anybody from that room who wants to add anything, any input to what Amy has said or what Amy has shared?
Remy, another thing that we discussed was I was curious about using a mind map. I think in my class that would be really helpful. And since the discussion, Tim Lee sent me a link, and I'm sending it right now to everyone, that Moodle actually offers some plugins, like a mind map plugin that you can use to create that kind of structured learning. Would be really helpful in my pastoral counseling class.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim Lee.
Okay.
You know what, Remy, and this just kind of distract this maybe take the direction a different way. Have we considered doing the Zoom plugin for Moodle?
Well, I think administrator can answer that question. Dorothy, I know you were doing this before. Is this a question you can respond to?
It's something we can ask remote learner, and something we need to kind of research. It probably would be a plugin, and with plugins, it's developed by different kinds of people, so you never know if it's secure or safe or if it has bugs. So it's just some research to go into it, and of course, we want to make sure that it's no extra cost for a remote learner to do that for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other question? You know, we chose to go this route today because of the limited time we have to discuss 9 chapters. And I believe and I I'm sure that our facilitators have done great jobs. Their materials are available for you. I also have a complete material with the Academic Affairs Office, which is also available for you. Before we wrap it up, as scholars, I was expecting somebody, and it's still not too late to ask you this question. What's one missing piece? What is one thing that is critical for online learning that these two authors probably left out? What's your critique of this book? Great things to draw from this book? You know, if you were to write a book on similar subjects sometime in the future, what is one thing you would like to add to it? This is not to put the book down, it's just to be scholars. What's one thing you will have loved these authors to add to the book? Anybody can unmute and share what that one thing is. Or the authors mentioned it, but too briefly. And it's critical for online education. Critical for online education. I mentioned it, but it's, if you want to say something, just unmute yourself and go for it. Okay. Anyone?
Remy?
Lerman, I can jump in.
Okay.
Oh, wait, who else was there? I talked last
Jim
time.
W. After Jim, then you come in, Terry.
Okay.
Jim W. Mm-hmm.
This is, I put this in the chat. I think one of the things with the Magna course as well as this book, I really, I would actually like to see a little bit more about online, where like I mentioned in our group, that a lot of this is just good pedagogy, not necessarily directed towards online as much as I would like to see. But the one thing that I did that wasn't mentioned that I really liked, if I could, is I really liked what was on pages 140 and 141 about having students put their initials or sign a contract about them reading the syllabus, understanding the course, and in connection where the author began the book was also in regards to what's your understanding of the course objectives, things like that, where they're actually putting point values to their reading of the syllabus, course outlines for us, understanding of the course objectives, etc.
Good. Thank you, Jim. And I agree with you. It should be more content focusing on online. What about you, Terry?
Actually, I agree with Jim on that. A lot of what was said is just good pedagogy. It's stuff that we've had, to build things in stair steps. It's just, a lot of that stuff, just stuff we've learned over the years. So it's not new to online teaching. I thought it was kind of ironic that, like in our chapter, it talked about, we want the videos like be 3 to 5 minutes, and then the next bullet points over that said they want you to go deep. Well, it's just hard in some subjects to go deep in any way in 3 to 5 minutes. So it's an interesting, kind of an incongruent thought there. And I like the idea of breaking those thoughts into sub things and just maybe work with those for 3 to 5 minutes and then go on. But a lot of this the other thing is a lot of what we looked at in both the book was look at asynchronous teaching, posting videos, for example. In synchronous teaching, you may not use them many videos because you're doing it in person. So part of it was the inconsistency between synchronous and asynchronous, and part of it, in my mind, was just common pedagogy that we do for learning.
Thank you, Terry. My own observation is that
you said something very profound in just 2 minutes. So thank you.
Yeah, I
Just
agree.
I'm just kidding. Bad joke.
One thing I would have loved the authors to give some more attention to is about academic integrity. I really expected more attention to academic integrity because online education gives room for a lot of problems or challenges in this area. So that's an area I would have really loved them to give more attention into. All right, so I want to show you a short video. Some of you probably saw it last year, but I find it so useful. It summarizes what I believe are some essentials for online teaching. And this is from a group of faculty from various universities as well. I will try and show it from my screen here, and then if it's not working, then Abby is standing by to let me share my screen first. Abby is standing by to show it to us from their screen. Let's see, I think, okay, I think we should be there. Oh, no.
High touch is more important than high tech. When a student is in crisis or a student wants to brainstorm an idea, when they need a question answered, I want to be efficient. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the telephone. And so that's a real high touch way that has been really effective for me. And I had really avoided it for a long time because I thought, no, that's really not the technology of online education. But everything is the technology of online education.
Establish social presence using digital storytelling. When you start in a face-to-face classroom, when that professor comes in, you're looking at their clothes, the way they act, the jokes, the stories, all these things. You size up who they are, right? So for me, one of the things I leveraged or I relied on was the power of storytelling.
I want to assume we all seen it. Are you seeing it? Good. Thank you.
And so the power of storytelling, telling stories is a great way to establish your presence and to help students get to know each other as real people.
Use technology intentionally. I think we get so excited, I know I do, about new tools and new digital communities and social media tools and technologies that we can use to really enhance what we're trying to achieve with students in our courses. But we sometimes let the tool sort of drive our decision making as opposed to going back to our learning objectives and saying, what do we really want to achieve? Does the tool help us achieve that? Just because we get really excited.
The power of external resources. There's tons of resources out there that use to supplement your online courses. And so you don't have to do all the work yourself. It doesn't always have to be contained in the LMS or in the textbook. And hopefully through that also help encourage and teach your students that there's great resources out there if you just spend the time.
Make your expectations explicit. Being explicit in your directions, in your expectations, in everything that you are trying to achieve with students. That so often we keep that secret, we keep that hidden as faculty. We know what it is. Sometimes we don't even know that we're keeping it hidden.
Make it really easy for students to find out what is it they have to do that week, when is it due, what are the points, what's it worth, those types of things.
Fun and playfulness and the unexpected. Doing something that's different can really jolt them and re-energize them and re-engage them in a way that allows them to express themselves creatively. So that it's not just writing an essay, but let's write a screenplay that demonstrates your understanding of these concepts. So anything that adds a little playfulness, I think just re-engages people and makes the online experience not feel so cookie cutter.
You have to log in regularly. You probably should plan at least 5 days a week to be logging in your course. Now that doesn't mean you have to log in, all day, 5 days a week, right? Sometimes people, I think, misconstrue that and will say things like, well, online learning is just more work than face-to-face. I don't necessarily buy that, but it's very distributed. The faculty that I know that are the most successful and my own experience has been they log in regularly to their courses. The power of personal feedback. One of the things that I find that students really value and that they take away from is when they get specific individual feedback that's meaningful. And by not just giving feedback, but giving audio video feedback, I've had students come back to me and really comment on how it was very meaningful to hear that even the inflection of my voice and that they could actually walk away with the positive comments. Whereas a lot of times when you just type stuff out, the negative just kind of comes through, right?
Okay. That video to me summarizes what we've been discussing. That's the essence of that video. It gives a summary of what we've been discussing. Any question on any of the 8 points? Any question? Those 8 points summarize all about online education. Any question?
Remy, is it easy to give video responses instead of typed responses within Moodle?
Yes, it is. It's possible. I did it last semester. And my students were really glad for it.
Remy, how do we learn to do that? On the magnet training, they use something called screencast or something like that, but where do we go? Who will we go to find out how to learn to do that?
I would say you get in touch with Maria and get in touch with our office. Most of our online program chairs have some experience on this.
Thank you.
Hey, Remy, I think another option is that you can go on and onto the internet and just look it up in terms of a Google search, how to add a video to Moodle, and it usually step by step right there. So there are other ways to do that as well.
That's true. YouTube.
It's possible to do it privately to each person, or are you talking about always to the class as a whole?
Depending on who you are responding. If you are responding to a student, you can do it to the student. If you are responding to the class, do it for the class. Thank you for your questions. Any other one before any other question before we wrap it up? If there's none, I just want to close with this, to thank you again for all you do for our students. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and your love you have shown him in continuing to help his people. And then 2 Thessalonians 1, verses 11 and 12. With this in mind, we constantly pray for you. That's what Dr. Duarte has said. The academic office is praying for you, praying for us. And let's continue to pray for one another. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for your questions. And thank you for your responses and input as well.